All right, guys, today is Sunday, March 23rd, and we're going to dive right in to the FX pairs. Uh, First of all, Euro USD, and what I'm looking at now, how we finished last week, and actually maybe a little bit of a recap of some of the short positions that I had going on during this huge run up that we had over the past 3 weeks. So, just to get started, obviously you can see, right off the bat, the euro started, getting some resistance right around 1.095. And right now I'm looking at, um, no, from a short position perspective, I'm looking for us to come back down to 1.06. Now, the number one thing is I did have short positions. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I did state it in my um, previous update that I did here on TradingView. And in the description, I had like two positions, and then we jumped a little bit higher here, and then I added another strong short position. So I think my average price is like 0891, 92. I don't remember, but it's close to 1.09. So just looking at the price action and how we finished last week, so positions, the short positions are good so far, but I don't want to jump the gun just yet to see if we're going to make a big move down, because for me, 1.08 seems like a good area to try to test whether we're going to continue lower or we're going to maybe try to bounce here. So I'm staying cautious on the risk side, wanting to, just in case we get a big jump up for whatever reason, I'm able to protect the positions. But 1.08 is an area that I really want to keep an eye on. From a purely technical perspective, there is another broadening pattern, or I would say um, maybe like a smaller broadening pattern that I had drawn up here on my last update, or my last idea that I posted here on TradingView was um, this right here. Now, this is usually a bearish tone pattern, just like I had last time. Before we had this huge run up, I had drawn out a broadening pattern from up here all the way down here. And you know what? Let me see if I can just draw that real quick. Yeah, I had something like this drawn up. Okay, broadening patterns start off very tight, right? It's pretty much an opposite of inverse of a wedge, right? Except the wedge is opening up this time. So once we were down here, this gave me the heads up that we were going to likely make a strong move to the upside, and we definitely did that, right? Even though I got out a little above 1.06, I didn't get to catch the whole move, but that's fine. That's going to happen in trading. You're always going to get, as long as you get the meat of the move, it's still fine. So just to backtrack here, that's a large one. Now to put back the smaller one, usually these are you'll have a very uh, a trend line, an upper trend line that it's very I don't know how to describe it, but it's a lot more angled than the bottom trend line. And once we see these moves or this pattern draw out, we're usually going to make a strong move back to where the price started or where the pattern started. In this case, it'll be about 1.04, 1.03. So I want to see if this area is going to hold a resistance. Now, the reason why I held on, even though we started making a slightly push higher, I wanted to see if we were going to find some resistance here based on the pivot levels. So if I put the pivot levels back on, you can see R1, otherwise known as resistance 1, was still holding that resistance um, a little above 1.09. And then once I saw we started getting a little weakness here on this red candle, that's when I wanted to add another position here. So this median level, which is right around 1.08, I want to see us break through that and start trading below it. And on top of that, you guys know I love my trend line areas. So if I take get the right trend line here. From the high point to the bottom point, you can see it's finding some support here. So I really don't want to see big bounce from here. Even though if we do, I would expect to stay below 1.0850, but I would like to get below this trend line, and also would like us to start trading below this median area. And then the median target for this would be back down around the pivot area, which is slightly above 1.06, or to be a little bit more specific, about 1.063465, right in this area here. And that kind of like coincides with this previous resistance area. Let me just draw that out here, right in this zone. Okay, so you had a previous resistance here for the market continuing to the downside. And then, of course, we had that pivot area, which we broke out of, but I'm looking for the market to continue and at least hit this area here. And if we do, then the trade the trade is a nice little trade, a little close to about 300 pips. But if we continue to fall below this area here, then I'm going to look for the next area of support, which would be right around the next median area, which is about 1.0343, or I could just round it and say 1.0350, somewhere in this area. So I'm going to keep an eye on, as we, on Monday, which is tomorrow. Technically, the market opens up in a few hours here on Sunday, but I want to see how this develops and when we start trading below this median level, and for us to continue potentially to this pivot point area, which I'll be tempted to take. If it's an aggressive move, I'll be tempted to take profit here, but I would still want to see if there's weakness overall across FX pairs, and kind of gauge if I want to hold on to this or not. But right now, this looks like a bearish setup here. If I remove the pivots, the yearly pivots, and I look down below, interesting enough, not always, but sometimes you'll find a chart pattern on the actual indicators themselves. I only use two. Primarily, the MACD is what I always use. It's like my bread and butter. That's if I only had to choose out of all indicators to use, it would be the MACD. I'm just able to read it the best, and I feel like it gives me the best, signals to go long or short. But aside from that, also the RSI is also a very good indicator to find out or to figure out if you're oversold, overbought. But also it gives good ideas on momentum, divergences, and chart patterns within the indicator itself. So we have this boarding pattern here, a small one. We kind of have a large boarding pattern here, and a large boarding pattern on the RSI as well. So these all look bearish now. That's why I'm saying I really like this short trade. But again, I don't want to jump the gun. I want to make sure that we start trading convincingly below 1.08 before I start having more trust in this move to the downside. So that's your USD and what I'm looking at right now. Just to recap a little bit on the weekly chart. Remember, I was talking about this trend line going all the way up here, right? You could technically say it started back here for support again, support again, support again, a little bit of support here, gapped up, and then make a huge move to the downside, which is technically a breakout. But of course, whenever we break out of a trend line or resistance support area, the market sometimes comes back to test it as resistance, right? So support turns into resistance, vice versa, of course. And it looks like we kind of got that here, right? So want to see a continued red candle for this week to close, below, again, like I said, 1.08, ideally to reach down by 1.07. So we'll keep keeping an eye on that. And that's also part of the reason why I wanted to stay short, because I wanted to see if this was going to really hold that resistance. So that gave me even more conviction to try and look for a short opportunity. So we'll see how this plays out for the first 3 days of the week, and see if, again, we can get that continued strength to the downside, or we get a little bounce here before continuation. Moving on to the pound dollar, I don't really see anything that stands out to me per se. I mean, I follow. I figure that if the euro USD is going to fall, the pound dollar will fall and follow with it. Again, I look down and I see a wedge pattern here. I see another wedge pattern here in the RSI. So, we had some a good down movement on Thursday and Friday, and finished down 1.042 on the daily perspective. And it found some resistance here. I support to this resistance, and then up here, and if it is going to fall, I would at least expect it to fall back down to 1.28. If I put the pivots back on, you can see it found some of the resistance around that median area. And if it drops to 1.28, maybe a little bit further down to touch the yearly pivot point, that would be a nice, decent trade. But I'm not involved in this one now. Just keeping an eye on it to see if anything really sticks out to me. But that's what I'm looking at for the pound dollar. So looks good basically on these patterns below, but in terms of a chart pattern up here, I just don't see it right now. So moving on to the dollar yen. Now the dollar yen, I've been keeping a little bit of tabs on, not because I wanted to trade anything on it, but because I saw this broadening pattern developing here, and I had the Fibonacci retracement tools. Now, some of you have seen some of the videos that I put. I have a set of Fibonacci levels that I watch, but I also have, what I call Tesla numbers. If you guys don't know what Tesla believed in the 369, guys could look that up itself. But I do have Fibonacci and Tesla numbers that I watch. So if I take from the ultimate low all the way up here to the high, you can see that it started finding support around that 62%. I know it's technically 1.618%, but I round them out. So for me, I just put 62% and found some support here. Now finding a little bit of resistance at that 50%. But based on the broadening pattern that is usually bullish, I would say that this is going to continue higher to at least 151, 152 possibly. So I'm bullish on this one. If I look below, you can see I don't really see divergence, maybe a little bit here on the RSI, but nothing that really sticks out. But I do see kind of like a falling wedge here and a falling wedge here, coupled with the bullish pattern that is the broadening pattern on the dollar yen. How high we're going to go, again, don't really have it mapped out. 151, 152, I'm guessing. If I take this solely on this pattern, and I draw a Fibonacci from up this top all the way to the bottom. Remember, I was talking about 50%. If you guys haven't read that book, the Encyclopedia of Chart Patterns by, I think the author is Thomas Bukowski. That book really talks about not just the pattern itself, but the percentages behind it. What is the likelihood of the market breaking out of a pattern and then reaching a certain percentage? So for him, he said, some of these patterns go to about 70%, 75%, which is all the way up here. I have found over like many, many, many years, over a decade, that the most ideal target once these patterns develop is about 50%, basically half of the move, which would indicate right over here, 152. I said 153. So somewhere around this area. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the dollar yen reach conservative target of 151 and change, or 152 and change, 153 even. So that's something I want to just keep an eye on and see how this one develops. That's pretty much it on the FX pairs. I'm still involved in some ETFs here, QQQE. Still watching that. I always look at the weekly perspectives or the monthly perspectives on these type of moves. So the stock market, for the past, I think, couple of weeks began to hit pretty hard. And I still have this wedge drawn out here. Same thing on the pattern. Everybody talks about, yeah, anytime you see markets start falling for like, one or two, 2 or 3 consecutive weeks, everybody starts talking about bear market, talking about the collapse and all that stuff, right? So it's just the same old game over and over again. And then obviously a few months go by and the market recovers. So technically, if the market was going to collapse or we were going to go into a bear market, you just wouldn't really know when or how extended it's going to be, right? But again, circling back here, QQQE, I have put options that are doing well now, but of course, a little different than just shares. So I'm expecting, I would like to see 1 point, well, not 1 point, sorry. I'm thinking about the Euro USD. I'm thinking about maybe 84.50. Yeah, around 84.50. We start trading below that. I might look at other opportunities, but I just want to get a conservative target of 84.50. So I don't know if we're going to get that because I don't know if the market's going to want to jump up this week or the next 2 weeks and close this gap first and then make a move, or it's going to make a fake move up and then continue down, and then after it recovers, it'll fill this gap and all this stuff up. So I'm still watching that. Another thing that I'm curious of is TMF. It's 20-year Treasury. I just don't know how I feel about this, but it looks good. It looks good, but of course, it doesn't always. You always have to stay cautious on it. But you got this huge broadening pattern here, and I took an opportunity to go long here. So you had this large broadening pattern, and you also have like a small triangle over here within it. So I did have, I am long $45. Right now it's down to 44.08, but I want to see if it starts railing or just starts giving up down here in the 30s. I want to see how this plays out. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on. And if it starts, moving to the upside, I will consider buying more shares. Don't have any options on this one, but that's pretty much it. And circling back to Euro USD, that's something that I primarily am keeping an eye on the FX pairs. See if we can start trading lower and go from there. So I hope you enjoyed this video, this quick analysis before the market opens. And like always, like I always say, good luck and trade safe and always manage that risk. I'll see you guys in the next one.